Note further that their carnivorous enemies not only remove individuals past their prime, but also weed out the sickly, the malformed, and the least fleet or powerful, by the aid of which purifying process all vitiation of the race through the multiplication of its inferior samples is prevented, and the maintenance of a constitution completely adapted to surrounding conditions is ensured. The poverty of the incapable, the distresses that come upon the imprudent, the starvation of the idle, and those shoulderings aside of the weak by the strong, which leave so many in shallows and in miseries, are the decrees of a large, far-seeing benevolence. Herbert Spencer was a 19th century English philosopher who was an advocate of social Darwinism, the application of ideas in evolutionary biology of survival of the fittest to human societies. Spencer believed that poor people and swarthy racial groups were naturally inferior, and that society had to elevate those people and groups who were biologically superior, the fittest and the strongest. This is, of course, a staple of right-wing reactionary ideology to this day. The idea that inequalities of wealth and status are caused by innate genetic differences in intelligence, talent, and worthiness between humans is something that many people believe to varying degrees. In America, our stratospheric levels of inequality are justified on these terms. Apologists for the social order say that your station in life is determined by your talent and worthiness. The strong thrive, the weak wither away. This is the zeitgeist of our age. Ever since the 1970s, wealth inequality in the United States has been ballooning. In America today, CEOs are earning 290 times the income of the typical worker, versus 21 times back in 1965. If you take the median wage of an American worker divided by GDP per capita, inequality in the US has been dramatically worsening in the last half-century, and is now the highest it's ever been. American real wages today are still no higher than they were in 1973, even though GDP per capita is about 12 times higher in 2025 than in 1973, meaning that none of that growth in productivity and wealth has gone to ordinary American workers. Instead, it's largely gone to the rich. All the while, government spending on public goods has lagged far behind, leaving America with a very poor social safety net and deeply lackluster infrastructure. US life expectancy, meanwhile, is the lowest of all rich countries, despite the US being the richest of all the rich countries. America's major cities, rather than being metropolises of immense magnificence and splendor, are plagued by poor infrastructure, obscene housing costs, large-scale homelessness, and public transportation which is either entirely non-existent or of a very poor quality. Meanwhile, America's multimillionaires and billionaires look down from their penthouses or luxuriate in their mansions and buy off politicians to make sure that no positive systemic change ever happens. The age of robber barons is back. We live in a second Gilded Age, one worse than the first, and with it has come ideas like greed is good and survival of the fittest. Values of social equality and solidarity have fallen by the wayside. Instead, it's the law of the jungle and the free market. The logical implication of this, then, is that the richest and most powerful among us are the fittest. They are the most intelligent, talented, beautiful, and charismatic. If inequality is correlated closely with your talent and worth as a human being, then surely the super rich should be the Übermensch, German for overhuman, superior beings of a higher caliber, standing over the great mass of mere mortals. And if that's the case, then surely the richest man in the world should be the Übermensch of all Übermensch, a god among men, an individual so incredible and extraordinary that we can barely comprehend. This is the person who made it to the very, very top. So we should expect nothing less if inequality was due to differences in worthiness between humans. So who is this individual? This god among men, the strongest and fittest of them all? Who is the supreme overhuman, towering over the mass of humanity? Well, it's Elon Musk.
I am become meme.
Elon Musk was born on June 28th, 1973, in Pretoria, South Africa. His father, Elon Musk, is a businessman and engineer, and his mother, May Musk, is a Canadian model. Although Elon claims to be estranged from his father, Elon Musk says that actually he and Elon remain in good terms and have always been on good terms. It makes sense, though, that Elon would want to distance himself from his father. Elon's parents divorced when he was very young, and May Musk alleges that Errol was violent and abusive in their marriage. Furthermore, at the age of 72, Errol Musk fathered a child with his 30-year-old stepdaughter, whom he met when she was a little child. This doesn't necessarily reflect on Elon, of course. Don't judge a man by the sins of his father, but it does give a sense of the kind of household Elon grew up in, which perhaps had an effect on him and his emotional and social development, but that's just speculation. Although Elon usually tries to deny or downplay this, his family was rich, and Elon was very well off in his childhood. They invested in lucrative properties, including infamously an emerald mine, which Elon denies the existence of, but it was very real. And of course, they were a wealthy white family in South Africa during the apartheid regime. I think that should be mentioned. Elon would move to Canada with his mother at the age of 17 because South Africa had mandatory military conscription for white men, and Elon would have been obligated to serve in the middle of the South African border war. He has framed this as him taking a political and moral stand and refusing to serve a regime oppressing people on the basis of their race. Whether that actually played any role, or if it was just Elon just not wanting to serve in the army and get potentially killed, who knows? In Canada, Elon enrolled in Queen's University in Ontario, but would transfer 2 years in to the University of Pennsylvania, marking his move to the US, where he has unfortunately been ever since. After graduating from UPenn, Musk was accepted to a materials science PhD at Stanford, but never enrolled. Since Musk was on a student visa, he was actually for a time an illegal immigrant. He did not have authorization to be in the US, but lucky for him, he was never kidnapped and shipped off to El Salvador without due process. Lucky for him, he didn't miss the birth of his child because he dared to criticize Israel. Instead of heading to graduate school, Musk instead entered business. In 1995, him and his brother Kimball and one other guy established Zip2, essentially a web version of Yellow Pages. This was at the beginning of the dot-com boom, and it is during the dot-com boom where Elon would make his first fortune. This is a really important point in Elon Musk's life. In the story of Elon Musk, the money he would make in these initial business ventures would be invested into his future businesses, which he is today known for, especially SpaceX and Tesla, and this is ultimately how Elon Musk would climb to becoming the wealthiest man on Earth. As we go through his business history, we should ask the question of whether Elon made his fortune because of his genius and talent. Just how much intelligence and acuity did Elon show in amassing his wealth? How much skill did it require? Or did he just get really, really lucky? Well, let's see. To get Zip2 started, Elon Musk provided the Musk brothers with $28,000 in startup cash, according to Ashley Vance's biography. This is a fact which Elon initially denied, as he likes to portray a rags to riches story, where he climbed to the very top only through his intelligence and grit, and his father being able to easily cut him 30 grand cuts against that narrative. Later, Elon tentatively admitted that yes, his father gave him a good amount of money, claiming it was only $20,000, but occurred later when the company was already running, so he didn't really need that money. So Zip2 was an online directory of businesses for easy reference for consumers. To Elon's credit, he did write the initial code for Zip2, so he did do something and had some degree of coding skills. However, his code was found to be deeply inadequate, and ultimately a team of software engineers came in and rewrote the entire code. Zip2 would forge a place in the market, and in 1999, Compaq would acquire Zip2 for $305 million. And this is where Elon made his first fortune. He took home $22 million out of the deal, and his brother Kimball took $15 million. Elon was now a rich man, independently of his parents, giving him the money and resources to launch further ventures and climb the business ladder. However, the deal would end up not benefiting Compaq nearly as much as it did Elon. In fact, it was a disaster for Compaq. Zip2 proved to be a hugely overvalued and unprofitable asset and contributed significantly to the company's declining fortunes. So with Zip2, did Elon leave behind a successful product for the world? No, but he became a multimillionaire. Elon would take his Zip2 windfall and buy $1 million luxury sports car, which a CNN covered at the time for whatever reason. He would ultimately crash and total the car while trying to impress Peter Thiel. Yes, that Peter Thiel. It's also worth mentioning that this woman here is Justine Musk, Elon's first wife. According to Justine, Elon told her at their wedding reception, "I am the alpha in this relationship." But we'll get to Elon's family matters later. Elon's next business venture would be X.com, the original X.com, launched in 1999, with Musk investing $12 million into the startup. X.com was an online banking service which provided a convenient avenue for financial transactions, with users being able to send and receive funds using their emails. The company was pretty successful, though was run in a chaotic and slapdash fashion, and Elon had significant friction with his 3 co-founders, and in just 5 months, fired one of them, and then the other 2 left. In 2000, X.com would merge with its competitor Confinity, which had developed the PayPal software. This is the origin of the widespread claim that Elon Musk founded PayPal, something which isn't true at all. PayPal began as Confinity and was co-founded by an entirely different group of guys in 1998, including Peter Thiel. The newly merged company would take the name PayPal, yes, and Elon would become the CEO and largest shareholder, but to say that he founded PayPal simply isn't true. It's especially not true considering that Elon didn't last very long at the company. Elon did not get along very well with the rest of the company leadership. He was seen as being difficult to work with. One example of this is the name of the company. Elon liked the name X.com. He really liked that name, but the rest of the company leadership didn't like the name because it sounds like, and focus groups concurred. Twitter/X is soon going to launch a separate app called XChats, and that sounds like something that would automatically be blocked on your school or work Wi-Fi. But Elon was intransigent about this. He really wanted to call PayPal X. This is by no means the only reason why Elon was fired by the board, but it gives a demonstration of what it was like working with Elon Musk. While he was on his honeymoon in Australia, the X.com board voted to remove Elon from CEO and replace him with Peter Thiel. Elon was very upset about this and immediately flew back to the US to plead his case, but the board had made up its mind. However, it wasn't all bad for Elon. He still remained the largest investor in PayPal despite being kicked out of the company. And in 2002, eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion, and Elon made out with $180 million. It's this gigantic windfall which Elon would use to then invest in the companies he is most known for today. So let's take a step back here. Elon Musk, at the age of 31, is now among the super rich, having made more money in a few years than most people would make in 100 lifetimes. And what exactly did he do for this money? First, it was Zip2, where Elon's contribution was really just providing startup capital gifted by his father and soliciting further investors. The code he wrote for the website proved to be very poor and had to be entirely replaced. So Elon made no real contribution to the underlying software of Zip2. He was sort of just at the right place at the right time. A young guy with rich parents finding himself at the beginning of the dot-com boom. And Zip2 ultimately was not even a successful company. Compaq made a huge mistake buying it, but Elon still made off with $22 million. And then with X.com, Elon again contributed nothing really to the technical side. He just provided startup capital he got from Zip2. And while X.com was a functional and decently successful product, Elon did not manage the company very well. And after X.com merged with PayPal, Elon's tenure as CEO would last less than a year because he was just too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. At no point is it clear what skills Elon exactly has. It's not software engineering, nor is it good leadership. So what exactly did he do to earn $200 million? So far, we're not seeing any signs of that superior Elon Musk intellect. But let's be fair. Elon has yet to demonstrate talent in anything yet, but let's see how he does with these next ventures. After all, it was these ventures that would make Elon Musk the richest man in the world, so surely they must have done something correct. And above all, the company Elon has the most wealth tied in is Tesla, his electric car company. Tesla is today the world's most valuable car company with a market cap of $746 billion. So how did Elon do it? Tesla was founded in July 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Yeah, Elon Musk did not found Tesla. He came in later and staged a takeover. But anyways, it was under Elon's leadership that Tesla would become the world's leading electric car company, the most valuable car company in the world, and one of the most valuable companies in the world, period, and churning out cars beginning with the Roadster in 2008. Elon has drawn astronomical investment into Tesla by selling the idea that Tesla will lead the transition to electric cars, which is said to be a pivotal part of the wider energy transition away from fossil fuels. It makes sense why investors have been so eager to get in on Tesla. Humanity has to transition to green energy. Fossil fuels are destroying our planet and are going to run out relatively soon. So here comes Elon Musk, the Tony Stark of real life, with his innovative, groundbreaking electric car company. Because of the intensely car-dependent infrastructure of so much of the world, the leading electric car company during the transition to electric seems like a good stock to buy. But let's take a step back. If you think about Tesla for more than a moment, you'll notice something a little perplexing going on here. Tesla is the most valuable automobile company in the world by far. Its market cap is currently over $800 billion, far ahead of Toyota in second place at $239 billion. It is in a different league of valuation. This is one of the most valuable companies to ever exist. Currently, it is number 10 in the entire world. It's more valuable than Walmart, ExxonMobil, and MasterCard. And yet, most of you watching probably don't have a Tesla. You probably don't even know anyone with a Tesla. You might have never even seen a Tesla in your life, or at least you can't recall seeing one. With such a massive valuation, you would think that Tesla is on top of the world with a Tesla car in every other driveway. But that's distinctly not the case. Personally, I shop at Walmart, and I see Walmarts all the time. ExxonMobil, when they're not funding climate change denial, they provide a lot of the world's energy. There's 1.5 billion MasterCard debit cards circulating in the world today. But Tesla is nowhere near as ubiquitous. Tesla sold 1.8 million vehicles globally in 2024, compared to 10.8 million by Toyota and 6 million by General Motors. Yet Tesla is worth more than Toyota and General Motors combined. Toyota and General Motors together sold about 17 million cars last year, compared to Tesla's 2 million, 9 times more cars. Yeah, Tesla's market cap is about 3.5 times that of Toyota and General Motors combined. That's kind of strange. The reason for this is very simply that the great majority of Tesla's valuation is anticipatory, it's theoretical, it's hopes and dreams. It's not based on the company's objective performance. It's based on the dream that Tesla will eventually take off and become the world's dominant automaker, pioneering the transition to electric cars and etching Elon's name eternally as the man who facilitated the transition. It's the image of Elon Musk as the real-life Tony Stark, an image Elon has been doing a very good job of keeping up for all this time. But this leaves Tesla very, very dramatically overvalued, with a lot of ground to catch up. Tesla's production has been rising gradually year after year, although recently there's been some backsliding, and Tesla just posted an abysmal quarterly report. Whether Tesla's underlying productivity will ever get even close to catching up with its market cap is a dubious prospect, in my opinion. More likely, there will be a severe correction sooner or later. This level of overvaluation is just insane. And most of Elon Musk's wealth is tied up in Tesla, so he would quickly cease to be the richest man in the world, likely falling out of the top 10 and maybe the top 100. Tesla has never even paid dividends to its investors and has no plans to do so in the foreseeable future. Whether investors will ever be paid a dime of dividends is up in the air. But setting that aside, how about Elon Musk's leadership of Tesla? Elon may not have demonstrated all that much talent with Zip2 and X.com, But Tesla has been a much more successful company, even setting aside the gross overvaluation fueled by irrational investor hype. Is this thanks to Elon Musk's intelligent, wise leadership? Well, does intelligent and wise leadership lead your company being involved in over 1,750 lawsuits as of August 2023? That to me seems less than ideal. Tesla is a scandal-ridden company. Going through every scandal involving Tesla in detail would likely require a very long video in of itself. Tesla has been accused of everything from accounting fraud to egregious safety violations to mishandling public subsidies to illegally firing workers for trying to unionize. It's actually hard to find some kind of a business-related crime or ethical violation that Tesla has not been credibly accused of. Some of it is just plain stupid. For example, in 2018, Elon Musk tweeted that he had secured the funding to take Tesla private, and that he might do so when the stock price reaches $420. This was a false statement and just a very poor attempt at 2014 Reddit humor, but the US Securities and Exchange Commission charged Elon for making false and misleading statements, and Elon was given a slap on the wrist and made to pay $20 million. But other things are a lot more serious. It's been widely reported that working conditions in Tesla's factories are very, very dismal. Workers are routinely seriously injured by a lack of basic safety protocols and made to work excruciatingly long hours for pay which isn't even that great. Tesla's factories are known to lack basic safety features, such as yellow paint to demarcate hazardous aspects of the environment. And when one safety professional took their concern about this to her boss responded, "Elon does not like the color yellow." Elon also apparently doesn't like too many signs in the factory and the warning beeps forklifts make when backing up, nor does he like safety shoes. Tesla's workers just have to do without, causing many to incur life-changing injuries which easily could have been prevented with safety measures. According to the official statistics which Tesla reports, Tesla's factories aren't all that dangerous. They're right around the industry average in terms of injuries, but it's been found that Tesla has been severely underreporting injuries, if you can believe it, labeling numerous workplace injuries as personal medical issues unrelated to work, and not counting injuries of temporary employees. All the while, Elon makes extremely strenuous production demands on Tesla's workforce. Instead of hiring more employees and investing in more machinery to expand production, Elon prefers to just overwork his existing employees to the point that workers fainting on the production floor is very commonplace. Even white-collar employees at Tesla have been severely overworked, with one office worker saying that he worked 12 hours a day all year with no holidays, no weekends, nothing, leading to severe muscle problems that caused him difficulty with basic tasks like holding a glass of water or playing with his daughter. This also probably relates to why Tesla cars aren't even that good. In 2021, Consumer Reports rated Tesla 27 out of 28 car brands in terms of the quality of the cars. Tesla cars tend to just be plain shoddy and well below industry standards in reliability and durability. This makes sense because there's not exactly a whole lot of care put into the production of Tesla cars. Tesla workers have to meet extremely high and onerous production demands, and so quantity is greatly prioritized over quality. So for all that suffering, for all those regulations skirted, the cars aren't even that good. And just to add on top, Tesla has been sued multiple times for an extremely toxic workplace filled with racial and sexual harassment. Black employees were reportedly called the N-word all the time and exploited even more intensely. A supervisor reportedly drew a racist caricature and placed it near the workstation of a black employee, and Tesla leadership did absolutely nothing. In a memo Elon mailed to employees, Elon played off the racism and discrimination as just jokes and comedy, and told the victims that it was no big deal and to just get over it, essentially. That's the reality behind Tesla. The company, which is allegedly pioneering the future of transportation, is just a gigantic blazing dumpster fire, which doesn't even produce good products. And yet, it's the most valuable automobile company in the world because so many investors are just very credulous. But wait, there's more. Another project of Tesla, and something which Elon Musk has been promising for a long time, is self-driving cars. The logic is simple. In the US alone, there are millions of car crashes per year, and 30,000 to 40,000 fatalities. Cars are big and dangerous vehicles, and humans naturally make mistakes or do stupid things, like driving under the influence. Replacing humans with ultra-precise AI seems like an attractive prospect, and Elon Musk has been promising that he will make it happen any day now. He's done this so much, in fact, that there's an entire Wikipedia page titled List of Predictions for Autonomous Tesla Vehicles by Elon Musk, listing a total of 23 predictions. Of these, only 2 were actually met, and 2 have yet to be determined. The rest were not met. For example, in December 2015, in an interview with a Fortune magazine, Elon promised that Tesla will have fully self-driving cars, full autonomy, no need for human inputs in approximately 2 years. In January 2016, he assured that a Tesla would be able to drive itself across the entire country in 2018. In April 2019, he promised that Tesla would have autonomous robotaxis in 2020, and it goes on and on. He still hasn't stopped making these promises, for the record. Last October, he promised fully autonomous, unsupervised Tesla cars on the road by next year. So he has until December 31st to fulfill that promise. And in January, he promised unsupervised full self-driving cars as a paid service by June, and it's May now.
The proof is in the pudding. So we're going to be launching unsupervised full self-driving as a paid service in Austin in June.
That being said, it's not as if this technology is entirely fictional. Tesla does have vehicles which are partially autonomous, which are being actively tested at this moment. But here is where the story actually gets even worse. Here in the good old USA, if you are a very wealthy oligarch, you can do almost anything you want, and that includes testing dangerous, hazardous, unfinished technologies on public roads, which Elon has been allowed to do. Tesla's autopilot feature is being tested on America's roads, with disastrous results. As of October 2024, there were close to 1,000 crashes involving Tesla's autopilot feature, and 51 reported fatalities, the vast majority of them in the US, including an infant and a teenager, unceremoniously killed because regulators are just allowing the general public to be lab rats in the service of Elon's great vision. To make things worse, it's been found that when they're on autopilot, Tesla's cars have a tendency to turn off right before a crash, so that Tesla doesn't have to report that the autopilot was involved, because technically the autopilot was off. It shows that Tesla is aware that this technology is unfit for public use, so they make sure the autopilot knows to turn off right before a crash, so that Tesla can present a false and misleading statistics about the safety of autopilot. It's a straight up evil. Elon has actually contacted some of the family of these victims to offer condolences, but also let them know that he won't stop. He's just going to continue doing this. It's for the greater good. Never mind that Elon has made very misleading statements, which potentially have contributed to people overestimating the capabilities of autopilot. Like with everything, he has overhyped the capabilities of Tesla's autopilot. The very name autopilot should frankly be illegal. It implies a full autonomy. And in fact, Elon rejected the name Copilot in favor of autopilot. In January 2016, he said Tesla Autopilot was already probably better than a human driver. In November 2016, Tesla released a video showing off autopilot and included text saying that the driver was only there for legal reasons. The car was fully autonomous. This gives the impression that Tesla Autopilot is fully capable of autonomous driving without any human input, which is not true at all. The first known fatality of Tesla's autopilot was a driver apparently watching Harry Potter when a truck rammed into and killed him. Overestimating autopilot's capabilities has deadly consequences. And it's not just the critics of Elon saying that he's been overhyping Tesla's autopilot. Tesla itself has privately conceded this. The director of the autopilot software has admitted to the California Department of Motor Vehicles that Elon has been exaggerating and that his words don't reflect engineering reality. Just the very fact that these things are on public roads is insane. The technology is not there, not even close. The general population, the plebeians, are being treated as lab rats in the service of a vision which isn't even that compelling. Are self-driving cars even really the future of transportation? I hope not. We should be moving away from cars and toward proper public transportation. Cars are dangerous, inconvenient, wasteful, and we have astronomically better means of getting people around. Even the best self-driving cars won't fix congestion and noise. They'll still leave our cities and towns thoroughly unwalkable. They will still be way less efficient than buses and trains in carrying people. If you want autonomous self-driving buses, that's something I can get behind, but self-driving cars are a terrible idea. Same thing with electric cars. Let's just move away from cars altogether. That would be even better for the environment. And I do think that is where we will ultimately end up. Maybe you think I'm too optimistic, but I really do think so. So the vision of the future Elon is selling is phony and deadly. So after Tesla, Elon's next most well-known and acclaimed venture is SpaceX. Elon talks frequently about his belief in space travel. Like usual, he presents SpaceX in the most grandiose terms possible. It's not simply a company about exploring and learning about outer space. No, it's the company that will literally save the human race. For Elon, colonizing other planets is an urgent matter. If the human race is limited just to Earth, then one of these days, an asteroid is going to come down and wipe us all out. As such, Elon proposes the idea of colonizing Mars. Not just visiting Mars, studying Mars, or landing humans on Mars, but colonizing the planet and doing so in the near future. It's not really an exaggeration to say that the whole of SpaceX is geared toward this. It's how Elon pitches SpaceX. He says that Starship will ultimately take humans to Mars. As with self-driving cars, Elon has constantly promised that the mission to Mars is right around the corner. Elon Musk, I'll put a man on Mars in 10 years, 13 years ago. Now, to be fair to Elon, the title is a little misleading. 10 years was the best case scenario, according to him. This is what he actually said.
And when are you going to put your first man on the planet? Man or woman?
Well, we're going all the way to Mars, I think. That's
Time frame?
Best case 10 years, worst case 15 to 20 years.
And you're sort of on...
So this was in December 2011, and today it's 2025. Will SpaceX land colonists on Mars by 2031 to 32? You be the judge of that. Elon has pushed even more ambitious timelines before. In 2019, he said that Starship could land on Mars as soon as 2022. In 2022, a year which distinctly did not see Starship land on Mars, Elon said that his best guess for a crewed mission to Mars was 2029. Today, in May 2025, Starship is a barely functional vehicle which only had its first successful test flight last June, and sending humans to Mars is a very difficult feat. You would want to go in the window when Mars is closest to Earth, and even then it would take around 9 months. A 9-month journey to Mars has a number of hazards. Prolonged microgravity exposure has major negative health impacts. Radiation would be a much bigger problem for the crew than it is for astronauts on the ISS, because they're traveling much further away from Earth, and if anything goes wrong, it will be much, much harder to provide any sort of assistance. A manned mission to Mars is by no means a fantastical idea. It almost certainly will happen eventually, but SpaceX, aside from being nowhere near prepared for such a mission, has far, far loftier ambitions. Carrying a human crew to Mars is already a massive challenge. Now think about sending colonists to Mars, 1 million to be exact, by 2050. It's hard to know where to even begin with this. Sending a crew of like 8 people to Mars is not something we are yet capable of, but Elon is talking about sending entire colony ships, like we're in Stellaris. Building ships which are large and durable enough to hold a significant number of colonists anytime soon, with enough fuel and food to last a trip, is just completely implausible. And what about microgravity? These colonists are going to take a beating to their health by the time they arrive, which is not something you want when trying to settle anywhere, let alone an inhospitable wasteland. You'd have to combat the negative effects of microgravity in some way. But according to Elon Musk, these ships are going to have artificial gravity generation. They're just gonna have it. They're going to invent that at some point very soon. Seems legit. And of course, there's Mars itself, which, it might have had life at some point billions of years ago. It doesn't now, except maybe some microbes underground, which some scientists think, but even that's a stretch. There was almost certainly a liquid water ocean on the surface at some point, but it's gone now, and the Martian atmosphere and soil are totally toxic to life. To get around this, it's been proposed that people will live in domes with suitable conditions for life, Elon's preferred solution, or people might live underground, but that's kind of lame. Personally, I'm not in the camp of those saying that humans will never colonize Mars. I'm an optimist about human progress. But my opinion is that humans will almost certainly not colonize Mars until we can make the planet more habitable. This might be possible. It's called terraforming. But that's not something that we as a civilization are remotely capable of. You're talking Falgs, not the 21st century, and probably not the 22nd. This is so far off in the distance that it's interesting to think about and ponder, but it's not happening anytime soon, despite what Elon Musk says. But Elon says he'll make it happen. He'll build giant domed cities on the surface, where generation upon generation will live. He'll nuke the ice caps to make it habitable. Yeah. That's not to say that SpaceX hasn't made genuine contributions to space travel, because it has. After decades of stagnation, SpaceX have finally moved the needle to some degree and further advanced the technology, and that should be acknowledged. But one, is that really Elon Musk's genius? The man provided the capital, yes, but he has no engineering talent. He didn't design the Falcon 9, his employees did that. And not to mention that SpaceX, by Elon's own admission, would have gone bankrupt in 2008 without a $1.5 billion contract from NASA at the last minute. So Mr. Doge owes the survival of SpaceX to the public purse. And the fact that NASA provides lucrative contracts for SpaceX, in fact, government contracts is the whole business model of SpaceX, leads into another point. Why don't we just fund public space exploration? Just have the government fund space exploration and science like back in the day. Why are we giving huge contracts to private companies? For the progress SpaceX has made, we didn't need SpaceX or any other private company. If we had just been funding public space exploration this entire time, we would be much, much further along. But instead, the US poured huge resources into NASA only once with the Apollo program to stick it to the Soviets. And since then, the American public space program has received little more than scraps. It gets the cushion change in the federal budget, despite people often greatly overestimating how much of funding NASA actually gets. Instead of funding and doing science publicly, we've ceded it to a narcissistic man-child like Elon Musk, preaching inane fantasies of nuking and colonizing Mars by 2050. I think there's a better way to do this. Now, before we continue, I want to briefly pause the video, not for a sponsorship. I don't really intend to do sponsorships on this channel. However, I do want to take a short intermission to raise awareness about something going on in our world at the wish of some of those who have been affected, and that's the situation in Turkey. Now, I'm not Turkish, I'm an American, but I think the world ought to pay attention to what is going on in Turkey. The Turkish government has been engaging in deep and profound violations of civil and human rights, and cracking down brutally on those protesting these maneuvers. And Elon Musk, for the record, as the world's champion of free speech, has been banning opposition accounts on Twitter on behalf of the Turkish government. The government of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the far-right Islamist president, recently arrested the mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu, the popular politician who was likely going to be Erdogan's opponent in the next presidential election, and around 100 others, including İmamoğlu's lawyer and the lawyer of his lawyer, on trumped-up charges. Hundreds of thousands have protested, and Turkish police have responded with brutality and savagery, viciously beating protesters and using noxious chemicals and water cannons. Thousands of protesters have been detained and many prosecuted, and many have incurred serious and life-altering injuries from the violence being dished out by the police. Reports of torture and sexual violence have come out of detention facilities, and human rights monitors and journalists are being persecuted all the same. One example is the 22-year-old photography student Asila Ayek, arrested on April 9th for holding a sign calling Erdogan dictator. While in custody, she has experienced being denied medications for her chronic heart and kidney conditions for days, and being fed salty prison foods, which are hazardous for someone with her kidney condition. Meanwhile, she has missed her exams at the university she is attending in Belgium, jeopardizing her education in addition to her health. Turkey, of course, is in NATO, and is highly interlinked geopolitically and economically with NATO countries. Germany is Turkey's largest trading partner, for example, but the Western democracies, quote-unquote, have been rather quiet about these egregious violations of human and political rights, which are happening right next door in a NATO country, and international coverage has been lacking. Solidarity and support for those resisting Erdogan in Turkey is lacking. and I'm just a YouTuber, but I'm hoping to help get the message out and to encourage people to take whatever steps, however little, to show support. Don't vacation in Turkey and prop up this regime through tourism or any other means. Encourage your governments and representatives to speak out and take what action they can to pressure the Turkish government, though I know that the prospects are pretty slim. The opposition in Turkey is suffering through this with little support from an apathetic world, including the NATO countries which have real leverage with Turkey, so please be aware of what is going on, and don't let what's happening in Turkey just fly under the radar and go unheard and unseen around the world. So back to Elon Musk. Okay, so now let's talk about some of Elon Musk's less well-known endeavors, but still significant parts of his career. How about the Hyperloop? This is different in that this is not actually a company Elon started. Instead, it's an idea Elon threw out there, which then triggered this mad dash to be the first to bring it to fruition. Elon's Boring Company is supposed to create his Hyperloop, but in reality, Elon has never actually tried to build this thing, and Boring instead builds tunnels for cars, which we'll get to. The Hyperloop is a concept which goes back to the 19th century. It proposes a transportation system where pods that travel at ultra-high speeds through a vacuum tube, unencumbered by air resistance. This mode of transport could hypothetically reach extremely high speeds at very low energy costs, and it just looks cool and futuristic. And the latter is probably the main reason why Elon likes the concept. In 2013, Elon posted a white paper proposing the concept of the Hyperloop and showing the concept of a Hyperloop running from Los Angeles to San Francisco. According to Elon, the Hyperloop is the fifth mode of transportation, which will revolutionize transit and drastically reduce travel times and costs. People and cargo will whiz across the landscape in pneumatic tubes, rendering trains obsolete and primitive. It will be immune to weather and twice the speed of a plane. It might even go at hypersonic speed, according to Elon. Now all that sounds very cool and very epic 420 blazed Tony Stark bacon narwhal, but you'll notice that now it's 2025 and the Hyperloop is nowhere to be seen. It's not the lack of hype though. After Elon published that white paper, Elon's status as a genius innovator caused hype to soar around the concept, and there was a mad dash to create this technology and build the first Hyperloop. A bunch of companies sprang up. MIT engineers built a toy model. The Hyperloop movement was in full swing. The most notable venture was Hyperloop One, set up in 2014 by Silicon Valley investor Shervin Pishovar, who consulted Elon on the technical details, as if Elon is some kind of engineering visionary. Hyperloop One eventually partnered with the Virgin Group and rebranded as Virgin Hyperloop, and built a very small, flimsy prototype in 2020, before the company went bust and shut down in 2023. Then there's Hyperloop TT, which has been around since 2013, and after 12 years, has basically nothing to show the world. They built a tiny test track in France, but didn't really do anything with it, and they were kicked off the property in November 2023 for inactivity. Their website has only posted 3 updates since October 2023, and they have shown no meaningful progress in building the Hyperloop system in over a decade. They are essentially vaporware. To this day, there is no working Hyperloop system anywhere on the planet, and the Hyperloop mania has died away, though some wayward souls continue to work on the concept. The story of the Hyperloop movement staggers the mind with the stupidity. It's not as if the Hyperloop concept is totally fake. The underlying physics behind it is sound, and some very flimsy proof of concepts have been made before, but the idea is just really impractical. Other people have covered the Hyperloop before, and I don't want to belabor the point, but essentially, the Hyperloop just isn't a practical form of transportation. For one, it would be extremely dangerous. The pressure differential between the near vacuum tube and the atmosphere of Earth would mean that even a tiny hole in the tube would cause atmosphere to come rushing in and obliterate everyone in the tube. In the event that one of these pods derails, it would slam into the wall of the vacuum tube with extremely high energy and kill everyone in the pod instantly, and trigger a catastrophic explosive decompression which would kill everyone else, or most of everyone else, in the tube too. And building and maintaining a 100-mile long vacuum tube in the first place would be extraordinarily difficult, and nothing like that has ever been done before. Vacuum chambers are not easy or cheap to build, and there's no actual need for something like this. We already have the technology of high-speed rail, which is plenty fast, safe, and highly reliable, and far less likely to explode. The Hyperloop is the epitome of this trend of flashy tech bro nonsense trying to substitute for what actually works for tried and true public infrastructure which tech bros have a direct business incentive to undermine. Don't take it from me, take it from Elon himself, who told his biographer Ashley Vance that the main reason he proposed the Hyperloop wasn't even to actually build the thing, but to try and undermine California's proposed high-speed rail project. Yes, that's correct, the whole thing was basically just a scam. Elon had no intention of actually trying to build a Hyperloop. He threw it out there to convince California legislators to nix the high-speed rail project because better public transportation means reduced car dependence, and reduced car dependence means less profits for automobile manufacturers like Tesla. But in the process, a bunch of schmucks were dazzled by the white paper, believing Elon to be an engineering and scientific visionary who had just proposed a revolutionary fifth mode of transport, and sinking money, time, and labor into this absolute nonsense. So moving on to the next spectacular Elon Musk endeavor, the Boring Company. I've seen many people get confused before between the Boring Company and Hyperloop. I know it's hard to keep up with Elon's shenanigans. The Boring Company does something different, though they allegedly are working on the Hyperloop in some capacity, but not really. Instead, the Boring Company's focus is on addressing the perennial problem of traffic congestion. Traffic congestion is, of course, one of the plagues of car-centric infrastructure, and it is a horrendous issue in the US, given the extraordinary levels of car dependence. In big cities especially, traffic congestion is just a fact of life. People just expect to be stuck in traffic nearly every day. So here comes Elon promising to fix this woeful fact of American life. How does he propose solving this issue? Building buses and trains to reduce car dependence? Is he lobbying the government to actually invest in public transportation? No, his solution is to just add more capacity, and in the dumbest way possible. So that's all the Boring Company really is. Narrow underground tunnels for Tesla car shuttles. That's it, there's nothing more to it. Where do you even begin with this? For one, this has been hyped up as a flashy new tech solution to traffic congestion, but it's just an underground tunnel. It's a car shuttle where a Tesla employee slowly drives you through a tunnel with gamer LED lights. It's just adding capacity, and not even that much capacity either. Vegas Loop faces numerous trespassers and struggles to meet expectations. Very, very shocking. And then you have these puff pieces from news outlets with reporters who have apparently never taken a bus in their life.
Downstairs from me right now is the future of transport.
This is pitifully minute, and yet this is supposed to represent the future of transportation. It's a complete joke. Elon Musk may not be good at building websites, or cars, or transportation systems, but perhaps there is one thing he's good at: video games. Elon Musk has talked all the time over the years about how he loves video games and how he's a gaming champion. He claims to be an avid gamer who has sunk thousands upon thousands of hours into honing his skills and becoming the best of the best. He has proclaimed that he, at one point, was one of the greatest Quake players in the world. He had a level 97 character in the hardcore mode for Path of Exile 2, hardcore meaning that if you die, you lose your character, and Elon's character was among the highest ranking in the world. He also had one of the fastest times in the world for completing the hardest dungeon in Diablo 4. And all in all, Elon likes to portray himself as a master gamer. It's been a major part of his public persona as the real-life Tony Stark, epic Keanu Reeves Rocket Man, the gaming and science fiction nerd who made it and became a supreme alpha male billionaire, but still retains his nerdy roots. However, some cracks began to emerge in this particular aspect of his persona back in 2022, when Elon tweeted his Elden Ring build, which was summarily mocked by the entire community. The build demonstrates a profound lack of knowledge of the very basics of the game, and has endured since as a potent meme. You might think that this was Elon being satirical, but it does appear to have been an entirely sincere attempt to boost his gamer cred. And then back in January, Elon began streaming Path of Exile 2, but as Elon streamed his ultra high level character, it became very transparent that he had no idea what he was doing. He didn't even know how to properly navigate the UI. A character like this would take thousands of hours of intense, dedicated playtime. and yet it was unclear whether Elon had ever even played Path of Exile 2 before the stream, quickly leading people to suspect that he was paying people to boost his character. And he soon admitted that yes, he had in fact been doing this, and that he was unashamed about it. This story is obviously not nearly as serious as severe exploitation of employees and killing children with dangerous experimental technology. But I mean, come on. This is the richest man in the world. This is the man we have been told who is going to make humanity a spacefaring civilization. If Elon can't help but lie about video games, then maybe those Martian dome cities by 2050 are also a lie. Maybe, I don't know. Where would Elon even find the time to become among the best Path of Exile 2 and Diablo players? In between his crippling Twitter addiction and dismantling public services and scientific research and being a deadbeat dad, where would he even find the time? And about his claim to have been a pro MOG Quake player back in the day, I hate to cite Carl Jobst because recently he's kind of shown his ass. But Jobst did make a good video breaking down the reality of that claim. So if you want to help Carl pay off Billy Mitchell, go watch that video. Elon has been making this claim for over a decade now. He claims that he was a top-tier Quake player and came second and won thousands of dollars in the first paid esports tournament ever in the US. The reality of that claim, as Jobst dissected, is that Elon actually came second in a random tournament which totally lacked any prestige in the competitive Quake scene, and that his team only did as well as they did because of their ultra-high internet speed at their Zip2 office. And faster internet speed was a huge advantage back in the day, particularly on the M-Player platform where the tournament was played, a platform which actual competitive Quake players avoided and never played on. So this claim has the distinction of not being totally 100% fabricated, which is a genuine achievement for Elon, but it's still 95% fabricated. And according to actual pro Quake players from those days, Elon did play Quake often, and they remember seeing him online, but he was subpar.
Hold on. Was Elon Musk any good?
He was okay. I mean,
you could be honest.
No, he wasn't very. He wasn't very good.
Now, if you're a bit younger than me, if you're, say, a teenager, you might not remember that back in the day, Elon Musk had an entirely different reputation. From the late 2000s up to the late 2010s, Elon Musk was a vaguely progressive cultural hero. He's the CEO of an electric car company, after all, and American conservatives have long just outright denied the reality of climate change, while environmentalism has been a staple cause of the progressive left. He was the CEO of a space travel company, and space exploration is a sciencey and had a vaguely progressive feel at the time. Elon Musk was known as the epic science man entrepreneur, pushing humanity into the future, into a capitalist version of Star Trek. Speaking of Star Trek, in 2017, Elon Musk was name-dropped in Star Trek Discovery as a technological pioneer alongside the Wright brothers. The glazing was that crazy. Also in 2017, Mass Effect Andromeda referenced SpaceX as one of the pioneers of space travel for the human race. He appeared in Iron Man 2 and The Big Bang Theory. The media hyped him up constantly, and most of his interviews were gushing and obsequious. Elon Musk's persona was always fake. He was always a con artist. His promises were always lies and exaggerations. But for a long time, Elon successfully crafted and maintained this persona, and he was good at keeping it. But the year 2018 is when things started to go downhill in terms of his public reputation. In my recollection, and in the recollection of many others, what really began his fall from grace was the cave diver incident. In Thailand, a football team became trapped for 2 weeks in a deep and hazardous cave system, and the rush to save them became an international sensation as the world watched in bated breath to see if these kids and their coach would be successfully rescued. Elon decided that he needed to make this tense situation about himself and offered a submarine to help the rescue crew, except that the submarine would have been entirely useless. There was no way it would have fitted into the narrow crevices the rescue team had to pass through in an incredibly dangerous operation which ended up killing one of the rescuers, a Thai Navy SEAL, Salman Kunin. A British cave diver helping with the operation, Vernon Unsworth, said as much, publicly rebuking Elon and calling it a PR stunt. This made Elon very, very upset, and he lashed out on Twitter, attacked him, called him a PDF guy, and hired a private detective to try digging up dirt on him. Elon was naturally sued for defamation by Unsworth, but insanely, Elon won the case and never had to so much as apologize. Sadly, this has actually been a repeated pattern in the story of Elon. The courts have gone very, very easy on him, and he's won a number of lawsuits he had no business winning. But on the upside, that means we can call Elon a PDF guy whenever we want, and it's not defamation, so go right ahead. This was the incident which made many, many people go, what the hell? I thought Elon was the epic science genius innovator carrying us into the age of electric cars, interplanetary travel, and ultra-fast, cheap, environmentally friendly transit. This behavior is not becoming of that reputation, and indeed, it wasn't. My personal theory is that Elon began to crash out in public because around 2017 to 2018 is when he developed a severe, crippling addiction to Twitter. I'm not joking about this. Social media addiction is no joke, and I think it's one of the most catastrophic and under-recognized public health crises in the world today. Social media addiction eats away at attention spans and impulse control. I think Elon's impulse control rapidly deteriorated, and so Elon lost the ability to carefully manage his persona. The very act of trying to get involved and send useless submarines strikes me as itself an impulse decision that he probably wouldn't have made 5 years earlier. Still, even after this, Elon's reputation was shaken but hadn't entirely collapsed yet. The media still hyped up his nonsense, including the Cybertruck, possibly the worst truck to ever be produced, Starship Earth to Earth, where Elon proposed strapping people to ICBMs going at 3G over Earth's atmosphere as a means of transport. Here, I think we can also see a huge decline in Elon's impulse control. The Cybertruck seems like something Elon conjured in a frenzy one night. This sick, sleek, retro-futuristic truck with a totally impractical and dangerous design, and then he immediately told his employees to make it happen. Starship Earth to Earth is an earth-shatteringly stupid idea, which doesn't consider basic facts, like the fact that most people can't handle 3G of acceleration for any extended amount of time, and that rockets are incredibly dangerous and explode 1% of the time. Elon really likes forms of transport which have a high risk of exploding. Starship Earth to Earth also seems like something Elon conjured one night in a frenzied state of mind after an hours-long Twitter scrolling session, and then immediately told his subordinates to prepare an announcement. Elon's reputation took another beating in the early days of COVID, when he was basically denying the pandemic, ordering his employees to come into work during shelter-in-place, and declaring that the outbreak would be over in the US by the end of April 2020. And then the next major milestone in his public downfall came in early 2022, when Elon's crippling Twitter addiction drove him to buy Twitter. And so Elon went about implementing his vision for the website, firing most of the workforce and driving away most advertisers and turning it into a den of neo-Nazis and other fascists. Disturbing content, scam advertisements, cryptocurrency shills, and more bots than ever before. And around this time, Elon began more and more to take a far-right turn politically, retweeting neo-Nazi conspiracy theories and Sikh highly on stage, and declaring that only high-testosterone alpha males should be allowed to vote. He then endorsed Trump, and then entered Trump's administration as the leader of the Doge, firing public employees en masse, and dismantling important government services and scientific research for no discernible budgetary gains. Goodbye scientists working on cancer, or the people maintaining our public parks. You are parasites, according to Elon Musk. Now is the time of high testosterone alpha males, and you didn't make the cut. However, there's something that we can take solace in. According to recent reporting, we may be rapidly approaching the crash out of the crash out, with Elon thinking of stepping away from politics because everyone now hates him. It might seem unfair to talk about Elon Musk's personal life. However, when this is the man flaunting his superiority and sinking hundreds of millions of dollars to influence our elections and upending the lives of hundreds of thousands of public employees, I think it is entirely fair game. Elon Musk has been divorced 3 times, and his first wife, Justine Musk, gave an interview in 2010, shedding some light on what it was like to be married to Elon. According to her, Elon had some very chauvinistic ideas about marriage, as we have seen. She says that at first he was a good or decent partner, or at least as good as you can be, while telling your wife, I am the alpha in this relationship, but that as he accumulated wealth and status, he became increasingly distant and cold. He made her dye her hair blonde and get very, very thin, and treated her as a trophy wife, a status symbol, and she felt increasingly alienated without autonomy, and like she was just an object Elon used to bolster his status. She expressed her dissatisfaction and they went to couples therapy, but Elon quickly threw his hands up and declared, basically, that she had to put up or shut up, or he's divorcing her. The next morning, he filed for divorce. So Elon Musk was a bad husband. A lot of men are bad husbands. It's bad, but not necessarily super unusual. It shows that Elon is a flawed person, but many people, including great visionaries and innovators throughout history, were flawed people. If this was the most scandalous thing one could find about Elon's personal life, I wouldn't even be mentioning it. However, when you learn a little more about Elon's personal life, things get rather odd. Take a look, for example, at Elon's children. To date, Elon has 14 children whom he publicly acknowledges, but he reportedly has many, many more in secret, like dozens or possibly 100 to 200. And there's an interesting aspect to this. The vast majority of these children, including some of the 14 known children, weren't conceived naturally, but through in vitro fertilization. So no, Elon isn't going out there spreading his seed naturally. Rather, he's giving his genetic material to women because Elon thinks it's really important to spread his genes. Elon has been very publicly fretting about declining fertility rates, but it's not hard to tell that Elon is especially concerned about certain groups of people reproducing too little or too much. According to a recent Wall Street Journal report, Elon is concerned about third world countries having higher birth rates than the US and Europe. And even in the US, Elon wants particular groups of people to reproduce more than others. And really, it's obvious that Elon wants to spread the genes of people he views as biologically superior, which of course includes him as the supreme high testosterone alpha male 420 Tony Stark big chungus man. So he goes out and convinces women to bear his biological children while keeping it a secret, populating the world with big chungus geniuses like himself. The Wall Street Journal also reported that Elon asked right-wing online personality Tiffany Wong over Twitter DMs if he could give her his seed. She turned down this gracious offer, and when Elon learned that she told other people about it, he unfollowed her and stopped boosting her account, diminishing her revenue. Furthermore, Elon has not been known to be an especially reliable father. He recently had a child with MAGA personality Ashley St. Clair, and both she and the singer Grimes, another ex-wife of Elon, were begging him on Twitter to respond to their messages about their children, while he was at CPAC letting the world know that he is become meme. The Wall Street Journal detailed how Elon gave St. Clair $2 million during her pregnancy, but $1 million of this was a loan, which she had to pay back, even though Elon is worth $375 billion. He then offered her a $15 million lump sum, plus $100,000 a month until the child turned 21, but on the condition that she had to keep the paternity of the child a complete secret. If she ever, for the rest of her life, divulged that Elon was the father, she would become Elon's debt slave and be forced to pay back the $15 million. Meanwhile, there was nothing in the agreement which prevented Elon from bad-mouthing St. Clair. Shockingly, she didn't sign the agreement. Meanwhile, Elon has acquired this compound in Australia where he wants the woman he impregnates to raise his biological children, and at least one mother lives there, though St. Clair and Grimes rejected this offer. Okay, so this mission Elon has to spread his super genes around the world is a eugenics fantasy he shares with Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein wanted to impregnate women at his New Mexico ranch to spread his superior genetics. Elon shares this fascination. The world needs more of the genetics of these men, these ubermensch committing sex trafficking and building the world's shittiest trucks. This is how we will address the vital issues of the 21st century. I also have to kind of chastise the women who have gone along with this. If the less than pleasant experiences of Grimes and Sinclair are to go by, a lot of these women likely regret doing this. But why would you ever do this? I mean, I feel like I can guess. These women thought they were being seeded with Galaxy IQ, Aryan Superman genes, but the reality of Elon Musk is something very different from the cultivated persona of Elon Musk, a persona which has already largely broken down. If you think you have been seeded with epic Giga IQ, Tony Stark, Hyperborean genes, you're probably going to be very disappointed when your kids grow up and turn out to be regular people who have to deal with the trauma of learning how they were conceived, by which time Elon Musk will have become a totally disgraced figure in history. The United States versus China provides a natural experiment in which model is superior for economic and technological progress. The Chinese model of development is socialistic. I'm not calling China a socialist country per se, but its developmental model is definitely socialistic. For infrastructure, the Chinese state pours heavy investment in public transportation. High-speed rail has gone from nothing in the 2000s to a vast network spanning across the country, and the Chinese state has played a central role in the country's development, with state-owned enterprises accounting for 60% of China's market capitalization, and even private companies operating heavily at the whims of the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese system is very different from the American system, where government investment in infrastructure, technology, and growth has been very, very low since the 1970s to 80s. Instead, the US relies on private entrepreneurial geniuses like Elon Musk to spearhead us into the future, to build our transportation networks, to facilitate the transition to green energy, and to explore space. Instead of high-speed rail, let's go with Elon Musk's Hyperloop and boring tunnels and his electric cars. Instead of funding NASA, let's go with SpaceX. Even though its existence is predicated upon government contracts and thus public taxpayer money, we have so little faith in public enterprise that we'll take public money and plow it instead into private enterprise. The American state has so much faith in a private capitalist visionary like Elon Musk that it's willing to let the public be unwitting guinea pigs in his experiments, allowing dangerous experimental technology on the road, which inevitably kills innocent people. California is finally moving ahead with its high-speed rail project after a decade, though God knows how that will turn out. But in the rest of the country, and at the federal level, the model is still to rely on Elon Musk rather than public investment, on private for-profit enterprise rather than the state investing in the common good. And how has that turned out? Well, China has experienced some of the most extraordinarily rapid economic development on record, becoming a world power in its own right, and the world's manufacturing hub, and an expansive network of high-speed rail, and cities which are magnificent to look at, and which tend to be much more walkable and convenient than American cities on average. Meanwhile, the US has lost much of its relative strength. American industry has been stagnant since the Great Recession, and this country is no longer the undisputed hub of scientific and technological dynamism that it once was. US cities are an absolute joke of urban planning, with a hellish level of car dependence, and there is no high-speed rail to speak of. Those self-driving electric cars and the Hyperloop are still nowhere to be seen after a decade of promises. The most we have to show for it is dead children, and a tiny tunnel beneath Las Vegas, and 400,000 Americans killed by cars since 2010. This isn't working. Elon Musk doesn't just tell lies, he is himself a lie. He is a testament to the falsehood of reactionary social Darwinist ideology, which holds up the biological superiority of alpha male Ubermensch. He has never been particularly good at anything except selling hype and outlandish promises. He is so deeply emotionally immature and insecure that he decided to lie about being good at video games. He is cruel and exploitative to his employees, and doesn't even have anything impressive to show for it. He somehow made Twitter even worse. In his first time in government, he tried to radically expand plutocracy and dismantle public services, going as far as to openly threaten Social Security. He is a rapacious oligarch who isn't even that impressive of a person. He isn't some evil genius. He just sucks in basically every way. I want to leave with an explanation, a true scientific explanation of how exactly Elon Musk bumbled his way to the top. Now, if you have seen my videos on political economy, then you know I am a fan of econophysics. Econophysics refers to the application of methods from physics and statistical mechanics to the study of political economy. Political economy itself refers to a mode of economic analysis distinct from mainstream economic analysis. This is all a little too much to go into at the end of a long video essay, but essentially, mainstream economic analysis is based on analyzing the decisions of atomized, rationalistic consumers, maximizing utility, while political economy is based on analyzing economies as social systems where income and wealth is distributed between different groups. Econophysics uses a simple analogy as its starting point. If you take, for example, gas particles in a closed system, as the gas particles move about and interact with one another and exchange energy, there are aggregate properties of the system which we can understand and predict through statistical mechanics. As time progresses and the entropy in the system rises, the distribution of energy among the gas particles trends toward a Gibbs-Boltzmann distribution. An increasingly small number of gas particles accumulate a greatly disproportionate share of energy, while most gas particles possess little to no energy. A capitalist economy is, from a mathematical standpoint, very similar. It's a system where millions of individuals and firms are interacting and exchanging money in a chaotic fashion, and the total amount of money is conserved in every exchange. Using this insight, two econophysicists, Viktor Yakovenko and Adrian Dragulescu, published a paper called The Statistical Mechanics of Money in 2000, and predicted that income in capitalist economies should trend toward a Gibbs-Boltzmann distribution, and that's exactly what we see in the empirical data on wealth distribution. This is what happens in a capitalist economy. A market economy inevitably generates a vast degree of inequality due to the statistical properties of the system, and those lucky individuals who strike it rich don't have anything intrinsically special about them, not any more than those lucky gas particles. It's not because they're inherently smarter. It's not even because they work harder. They're just lucky. The implication is that even if all humans were exactly psychologically identical, if you have a market economy, a vast degree of inequality will be generated simply because the markets maximize entropy. However, there's a caveat. The Gibbs-Boltzmann distribution only describes around 95% of the population. The actual curve of wealth inequality is even more radically unequal. The top 5% is characterized by a Pareto distribution, and this is ultimately how you get billionaires like Elon Musk. With just the Gibbs-Boltzmann distribution, you would get millionaires, but no billionaires. But with the Pareto distribution on top, you get billionaires. You get a man worth nearly $400 billion. The reason for this has also been discovered by econophysics. In a 2004 paper, The Social Architecture of Capitalism, computer scientist Ian Wright provided an explanation: the exploitation of labor. What this means is that the capitalist class, the owners of capital, meaning machinery, tools, raw materials, and so forth, employ workers who generate value for the company, but give back only a proportion of this value to workers as wages. The rest of this value is appropriated by capitalists as surplus value. It's the basis of capitalist profit, and this allows for an even more extraordinary degree of inequality, giving the world its Rockefellers, Carnegies, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk. But again, there's nothing inherently special about them. They just got very, very lucky. So in summary, Karl Marx was completely correct. So that explains Elon Musk. He's just some guy. He got extraordinarily lucky. That's all there really is to it. And we have been made to suffer the consequences.